If you have a GED or you have your high school diploma, go enroll into a 2-year college. If you don't even have your GED, go finish out and go get that GED. If you already have some college, go finish out that associate's degree or finish out that bachelor's degree, but go to college. Go take out that damn loan and go get you a good education. Knowledge is power, and it is.
So we gotta just jump in really quick, right? And I'm a preface by saying I've got a master's degree, right? But I think men have started to shy away from these degrees because the way it was first introduced to us, we were told people with degrees tend to out earn people without. Okay, so it's a means to an end. That's very literal. That makes sense to a man. I want to be able to provide for a family. I want better outcomes, or insert SpongeBob name. I like money, so I'm going to do the things that are going to give me that outcome. Once that begins to change, as the landscape begins to change, i.e., schools are for profit. They're not non-for-profit organizations. They're there to turn a profit. So once it became a losing proposition, and we see a generation afflicted by student loans, and by say we see a generation, we saw them from the time they took student loans to how the impact it had on their lives. When the economy shifted, when it became harder to actually find meaningful work to pay down these exorbitant loans that the colleges, once they had backing, confirmed backing from the federal government, hey, yeah, you can see how it started trending up in terms of tuition. So if we're going to charge, once we charge $2,000 a semester, but we can get away with 30,000 because we've already told you you need these loans, you need an education. So then we made the loans available for you. Predatory in behavior or not, we'll leave that alone. You signing up for them, you're in your 18, again, we'll leave that alone. But the fact is, there was an opportunity to make some more money. Then when we see that when people were going to college and the utility of these degrees started to fall away. So you paid 60, 70, 100 grand for your education, and it doesn't give you the outcome it was promised. It'd be one thing if you went into 100 grand of debt and you got your education, and now your first job out the gate, you're making a commiserate amount to pay down said loan and also fund the American dream. But somewhere along the way, the American dream started to become a nightmare for a lot of people. We saw what crippling debt did to our own cohort. I was lucky enough to pay my way through college, but I've got other people that are still millennials that their life became about the student loan debt. So now that just influences every other thing about your life. So hearing someone say that go and take out a loan, right? One of the things you should have learned in college is about fiscal responsibility. If I can go to a trade school and I can make money, or my degree is not necessary, my specific degree isn't necessary for the job I'm working. Just a degree is, right? And that's what a lot of people saw in the field. Hey, you need a bachelor's degree. In what? We don't really care. We just want to see that you can actually do it, you complete it, or this is the filtration system we use to keep people out. Okay. So people did it, and now they're into the fields that has nothing to do with what they studied for, nothing what they paid for. But they're making money. Now the landscape has changed and said that crippling debt saddled with you will follow you for the rest of your life. You can't discharge it in any known factor. We have a subset of people just saying, hey, it doesn't matter. I'll leave the United States. I'll live somewhere else cheaply, right? And you can bottom out my credit score. It doesn't. I don't care. I'm in a third world country. I'm living amongst nature. I'm happy. Or I go to trade school, and men are again going to be very, very much logic, means to an end. Do I want to get a degree that's not going to help me in a discernible way when there is a viable way for me to make money, a good amount of money, right now? You could, before you're 30, you could be making 100 grand. Right? You can start your own business from a trade, and some of these trades are never going to go out of business as long as these people, change with the times. Let's continue.
Very, very important. The two classes that they hate the most is one, the poor, and two, the educated. But they hate the educated the most. And what's crazy is that people always wonder why China has been super successful and they've been here for dynasties. Go look at the Han Dynasty, the Qin Dynasty, and go look at the revolution from 1968
No, you don't got to do all that.
to like 1976. They got rid of the educated. That was always the goal. Now, there are a lot of black educated men, and I need those black educated men to sit up here and come onto the internet and bring out awareness that black men need to be educated. I was having a
You need to be educated, right? But the definition of education shouldn't be just degree attainment. Again, I'm a big fan of saying I've met some of the smartest people, most intuitive people, some of the people that they're autodidacts. They're curious about a thing, they dive into it. You have a phone in front of you. Right? That if you have a phone in your back pocket, or if you're really old, it's attached to your hip, right? But you can look up anything. You can get educated. There are plenty of resources, schools, Ivy League schools that offer free education and free classes on several different things. You don't have to have a degree to now go out there and to be well informed of society. One of my best friend, we constantly have conversations, and I'm learning stuff from him because he has such a curious mind. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. And some of the people with all the degrees, you'll look like, raise your hand if you've ever been to the doctor and you're looking and saying, well, yeah, that doesn't make sense because of this. And the doctor, oh. So a really quick story time, you know. So I had a hernia surgery years ago, during my undergrad, early 20s. And I was still in school. So I had my brother bring all my textbooks, you know, after surgery, the next day. I've got all my textbooks, all of the books I got to read because I don't want to fall behind. Because, you know, school, Nigerian, school is the best. So this doctor, black guy comes in, you know, the next day. I think it was maybe attending or one of the residents. And he's looking at the books and he's like, these are yours? I was like, yeah. And he says to me, man, I haven't read a book in years. And I looked at that. I heard that. I was like, is that normal for doctors or really kind of just like mechanics of the body? You come in with this issue and I do this, and then we wait and see the result. And then we now deal with what happens after that. And we're now in that cycle of this should work. If it doesn't, come back, tell me what's not working, and then we'll address that. And it just be this cascading thing that comes down the line. All right. This is not to smear doctors. I have plenty of doctors in my family. But we have this obsession with saying because you're educated, you're then held to this standard. In reality, we're all human. Put it like that.
a conversation with my father, and we were talking about trades because I was saying that it was very interesting on how many black men go into trading instead because, you know, they say that's where the money is at. Now, on the contrary, yes, that's where a lot of the good money is at, but at the end of the day, that also requires you to not have an education or a degree. Well, my father brought to me, and he has
Again, you can backtrack it. Right? You don't have to do things according to this timeline. You can, and this is what I do with my master's. I already had a job paying me 6 figures. I wanted my master's. I didn't have to take a loan from it. I just had to set money aside to make that happen. To me, that makes more sense than going into debt, going into school, being outside the job market, and then not knowing it or hoping that you never enter the job market. Say you're 26, 27, you have an advanced degree, you have no experience. Then you apply for jobs and they're like, yeah, this is an entry level position, it has nothing to do with what you applied for, nothing to do with what you were educated in. And now you're looking a little lost. Like, how does this make sense? Right? I need a job that's going to help me pay down this debt, this 6-figure debt that I have, maybe this mid 6-figure debt that I have. And you're telling me I'm lucky if I get a living wage? This is why men aren't signing up for this. And men, largely don't let women shame you into saying you're less than because you don't have a degree. We listened and we got education because they said we needed education. Then we got into crippling debt because of it. Again, don't make women the center of your life. Take stock and inventory of your life and say, this is what I'm going to do because it makes sense for me.
a behavioral political science degree and also a sociology degree. And it's very interesting, and he was explaining the dynamics, and he was saying at the end of the day they're always going to propagandize trading with black men because that is what will keep them away from having any type of interest on the education.
All right. Again, men being practical men. With those degrees that she mentioned, right? Sociology degree, you probably can teach, right? So you can go and make, say, $150,000 with a trade school, right? With a trade. There's a very real ceiling with some of these degrees in the social sciences. It's a choice and trade-off. Do you want this degree so you can have something hang on the wall, or do you want to go and make money in a society where we tell you go and make money? Go and make money. Again, don't let anyone shame you into doing what makes actual physical sense to you, because when you're broke, invariably when you're broke, they're not going to come out and say, hey, I've got a degree and I've got a job, here's some money. That's not how it works.
And on the political standpoint, and heavily on the political standpoint. Everybody talks about how they want change. Go get those loans and go get that education. And the more people continuously start doing, because what they want to do is get rid of schools. That's what they want to do. That's why they're getting rid of the whole DEI funding, HBCU.
It doesn't really make any sense that we're going to get rid of schools. Again, man, do what makes sense, right? Do what makes sense for you. And when you hear stuff like this, cool. Listen, grain of salt. If you can, yeah, get educated, because, going to a college, going to something that has structure, you can learn a lot about just historical stuff. But again, you could kind of just do that on your own. The stuff that college makes it easier for you to be introduced to, there's a lot of stuff that's just fluff. That's kind of a waste of time. Prerequisites for something that has nothing to do. 2 years of prerequisites with something that has nothing to do with your major. It's a business, right? I just say start your own business before you go to someone else's business. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.